Hello, today's lesson is Instrument Invention using Scratch and Makey. So a Makey looks like this, and it was developed for a basic side and a more complex side, and today we're going to be using the basic side. With this, it tricks the computer into thinking that up, down, left, right, space, and click is being used on the computer. We're also going to be using a development called Scratch to do our block-based computer programming. Now remember, circuitry goes like this. You have a battery or a power source, and electricity runs down and through the lines, and in this case it powers a light bulb. But in order for that to work, we have to have a continuous loop of energy. So the electricity or the current runs through the light bulb, back through the wires, and in this case it goes to a switch. And this switch being closed, not open, makes this electricity runs back and through. So we're going to be using that same concept of understanding circuitry with using our Makey and programming it with Scratch. Now our musical instruments. We have a certain content of musical instruments that we can use. Here are some examples that I found on the web of some guitars. And you can see how they basically made conductive tape. In our case, we're using aluminum foil duct tape, and we're going to be connecting the Makey to that. Here's another example of a set of drums that someone's making, and in this case, a very elaborate violin. I'm hoping to make this one in the future. Here are some instruments that we can actually use using or make and using our Scratch programming. So here's a set of drums: bass drum, sidekick, hi-hat, closed hat, tambourine, cowbell, we always need more cowbell, triangle, bongos, and over here we have guitar, piano, bass, cello, and so on and so forth. So if once you have finished making your instrument out of cardboard and conductive aluminum foiled tape, we are then going to go into programming it. So time to start programming. Before we get into that, let's understand the concept that there are different block-based categories, such as sound, costumes, and scripts. We're going to be using a few, but I want you to understand that the event-based programming is programming in which a code is based on events, which is similar to broadcasting. For example, when the mouse is moved, the event can trigger all scripts when the mouse is being moved. Now the requirements of this is that there will be 5 notes. When you first start off, I want you to have the basis of coding for an up arrow, a down arrow, a right arrow, a left arrow, and a space. Now, time to open Scratch. We're going to use Google Chrome for this, and in the URL bar we're going to type in the word Scratch. We're going to find the first website, and in this case it's going to be scratch.mit.edu. And it's going to look something like this. Well, let me go back to my presentation, because my next slide, it tells you how to open up the creative view. Well, the first thing I have to do is I have to sign in. So I already have mine here, but yours is going to be your username with a series of numbers and your password. It's going to be located on your index card, and then you're going to click on sign in. Now after when I've done that, I'm going to find where it says create, and I'm going to click on it, and this is going to open up the web-based programming that I'm going to use to code my invention. So, set up the platform. The first thing I want to do is I want to name. In this case, I'm going to put piano. Oops. And then the second thing is I actually don't want the Scratch cat. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to right click and I'm going to click delete because I don't really need that. I'm going to create my own. Now the first thing I want to do is import sounds. So I'm going to go back to this window, and if you see up here I have scripts, backdrops, and sounds. So I'm going to click on sounds, and I want to open from the series of selections that they have in the library. So I'm going to choose this one. It says choose sound from library, and I'm going to click it open, and it gives me a plethora of different sounds that I can work on. But today I'm doing instruments. So I'm going to click on instruments and I'm going to go down and I'm going to find ones for my electric piano. So electric guitar, electric piano. So I'm going to click. In order to select all the ones that I want, I can hold down Shift and then click on the next one, and it will also highlight it. Now I'm working with 5 notes, so I need C, D, E, F, and G. And when I'm done, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm going to click on OK. And that's going to import into the sound portion of my events. And I don't want this very first one. It says pop, and I don't need it. It's just default, so I'm just going to X that. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're all there. When I click on it, it's going to say C, electric piano, D, electric piano, E, electric piano, and so on and so forth, F and G. Now, the next thing I need to do, and this would be a good time to pause if you need to pause and rewind, is I need to import an image or a sprite. So I go back to my Scratch, I go down to where it says New Sprite, and this little Choose Sprite from Library. So I'm going to click on Sprite, and I want to find Instruments. So I'm going to go under the category of Music, and in this case, I'm programming for a piano. In your case, you need a program for what you have. So I'm going to click on Piano, and I can double click and it just automatically imports. Now the next thing I have to do is I have to make costumes or create the animation to the picture that I have, to the sprite that I have. So I want to go under Costumes. And in this case, it gives me this building platform. And right here, it's a really good idea to enlarge and make your piano the size that you want here first. Like I just said, you click on the arrows. When you get like this, you click and you can stretch out or decrease. And you can also click on the whole thing that gives you a hand and you can reposition. What I find the easiest is the first one is blank. Then they kind of give me some other ones that, you know what, I don't want to have that key, so I'm going to X that out. So I'm going to X, and I'm going to click on this one, and then I'm going to X on this one, and I'm going to click on this one, because I don't want the default ones that they have. I want to create my own. So I'm going to keep this so I can make copies, but I also want to have it so it's a little this way. There we go. The first one I'm going to keep blank, but I want to make duplicates of this. So I'm going to go over to this area where it has the sprite. I'm going to right click, that gives me an option or a menu, and I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm going to duplicate it 4 times, which gives me a total of 5. Because I'm going to duplicate it 5 times because I want the very first one to be blank, because that's where I want to start. I want a blank one. So then when I code it, the second one here, okay, the second one will have changes, and so will the third, fourth, and fifth. So moving on. So what I want to do is, starting off with note C, which is here, I'm going to code it so this plays, and it also makes an animation or a change in my picture. So I want to fill that with color. And I'm going to choose this bright green. My next note, I'm going to have D, so I'm going to fill this one. My next note is going to be E, so I'm going to fill this one. And this one is going to be F, and this one is going to be G. There we go. The other thing I want to do, so when I'm going to keep this just as blank, but this one, I need to change the name of it, because this is going to help me when I do coding later. I want to take that A2 and I want to put in a keyboard C. This one, a keyboard D. This one, a keyboard E. This one, a keyboard F, and my last one, obviously you can think, is going to be a keyboard G. Oh, I just erased that one, so let me click on the one down here at the bottom. and G. So, going through my notes, I have C, D, E, F, and G. And I can click through and I can see that they're all in the same location. I haven't moved each one around because I want to stay. The only thing that I want to change is going to be the notes. So C, D, E, and so forth. So this is going to be the costumes. And the costumes are basically what changes in your events. The next thing I want to do is making a series of commands using code. So I'm going to go back to here and I'm going to go under scripts. So with scripts, I want to start off with an event. And the event is when the flag is clicked, it will start. And then I'm going to move to when space key is pressed. And if you can see, I can't click these together. Not like when we use the Sphero balls or code.org. These are separate events. So it's okay. So when it says when the green flag is clicked, when spacebar is pressed. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a look. And what I want is, I want the costume, these costumes here, right? I want it to change when the spacebar is pressed. So I want it to switch costume from keyboarding, and I'm going to start with A. No, I'm going to start with C. A is my blank. And I'm actually going to put A up here because I want it to stay like that. Alright, now I say when spacebar is pressed, switch costume to keyboard C, and then I want to have the sound to play, and the sound plays sound, and I'm going to click that there, and I'm going to say I want it to play the electric C. So that's all the coding I need for spacebar. But I told you that we need to have 5 notes. So what I do, instead of going through and dragging and dropping, I right click on this and I just say duplicate and I bring it down. And then I can make changes. I can say when spacebar up arrow, I'm going to say up arrow, and my next note is going to be D, and I'm going to say switch to costume or the animation of D, and I'm going to change to the sound of D. Same thing again, right click duplicate. And it doesn't matter where you have this on the board as long as it's within the platform. I'm going to say when down arrow, I'm going to have it switch to E, and I'm going to have it play an E. Same thing again, right click duplicate. And in this case, I'm going to have it do a right arrow. And my next note is going to be, you got it, an F. And I want it to play an F. And then I'm going to duplicate this one more time to have my 5th note. And I'm going to say, when left arrow is pressed, I want it to play the note of G. And, oops. And I want it to actually play, so I want to switch the costume and play. Now what I can do is I can come over here and I can press the green flag. The green flag starts me off right here. When the green flag is clicked, it switches costume to blank, but then I can start testing. So engineering processes is that we plan what's the problem we have to code. How are we going to do that? We're going to learn as we go. And then we're going to start developing a program, and then we need to test it. And if it fails, then we go back to number 1. What's the problem? So I'm going to try to start test it. I have my green light, that's a go, so I'm going to press spacebar. Now you're not going to hear the notes, I can hear the notes, but you can at least see the animation. So spacebar, that's a C, and then I have up arrow, down arrow, left arrow, right arrow, left arrow. Now I actually think, for me personally, I think I want to have this one as a left arrow and this one as a right arrow, because that's just how I operate the computer. So I can stop this and then I can restart. It gives me my blank piano again. I can press space, up, down, left, right. Now if I wanted, after I've done this, now I need to save my program. So I'm going to go up to here where it says Save Now. And I'm going to save it. But in this case, when it's done saving, and when I'm ready, I can actually connect my Makey, and I can try to see if my Makey and my instrument Invention starts to work. So remember, by making a series of commands using coding, okay, drag and drop, we can build example coding that could work for either a piano, a drum set, bongos, and just to give you a little bit more insight on how we connect our Makeys, so this would be a good time to pause if you need a pause and rewind back if it's something that you missed. But remember, to connect our Makeys, I'm going to just go to this website because it has great graphics. This is actually the Makey graphics. Alright? To set up, we plug in the USB port to the Makey and then into the front of the computer. Close any pop-ups or drives, click cancel. We connect the earth or the ground, which is at the bottom. That's what we hold on to complete the circuit. We can connect that to ourselves by simply just holding on to it. If you wanted, Mrs. Breen does have some aluminum foil that we can make some bracelets out of if you want to try that out. And then you have to start connecting the space. So you connect the space and then you put that to your first instrument, and then you connect each one so you have your 5 notes, and then you can turn around and see how it works using your piano. So I hope this helps, and at any point in time you can also pause this, return back, and see what you've missed. I hope you have fun. Bye.